Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Did you enjoy your lunch? In case you didn't, the supper, so you can revenge during supper time. Okay. Welcome back to the afternoon session. And before we begin, I would ask our Archbishop Emeritus of West Kenya Union Conference, Anajijua, to offer an opening prayer. Collins, it's only you. Offer a word of prayer for us to begin this session. Thank you so much. Good enough, Elder Haggai had reminded you to be taking notes. He reminded us to take notes, okay? So we just want to see if you can read your notes quick enough with a few questions for us. So pull out your devices kindly and go to kahoot.it. Kahoot.it. You can use your computer or your phone, whatever device would be fast enough for you. Kahoot.it. We have some games for us to play here. You can scan the QR code as well to take you to that site. Are we all there? Kahoot.it. We are all there. So basically what we are going to do, once you get to that site, you'll get a code for our game. You enter in the code, and then you create a username. Make it something unique and interesting, okay? You create a username, a nickname for the game. And then we'll begin to fire up questions. You answer them accordingly. Fortunately, I know Elder Haggai is gracious enough. He will award the three number 1, number 2, number 3, with something special. I don't know what it is, but it will be something special. So do your best and get to number 1. If not, number 2 is there for you. But at least try and be number 3. Okay? So Justus is here to guide us and lead us in the questions, the Kahoot questions. I believe we're all there. Are we all there? Kahoot.it. Oh, game pin. Okay, game pin this side. Wako side. This side. Oh, okay. This side, it's like they are still asking for Wi-Fi password. They are still. All right. We'll do a trial. Let's do a test. I think just as lead us through guide us through the test. The rest, you can copy from your neighbor if you are. Okay, the game pin. In a short while, we'll fire it up. Are you ready? Okay, there we go. We have our game pin. $692-7827. Enter in the game pin, create a nickname. We'll see your name there. I have Adamu, Jonah, Chris, Kolo. Okay, they are coming. Movik, Nyonje. Okay. All right, we are starting the game in the next 5 seconds. All right, we'll do 3 tests. We'll test to see if we are together. So,
Anyone still logging in?
is there someone still logging in? Okay.
42 so far. 42,
We have 43,
44,
JKM.
46.
Okay. You have quite a number. Let's start. Let's start the game.
I think we are there. Start.
So from there, I think I'll let Justus handle the rest. Okay. Right. I think he loves my company up here. I'll be the bodyguard. All right. Question number 1. ECD headquarter is in which country? You have some seconds to answer it. Look at the color. Check on your device. Tap the right answer. You have 30, 34. But you have
5 seconds.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Done.
Up. Time is up. Okay, the right answer was Nairobi. All right, let's see who is number 1 on this. Let's see. Okay, number 1 on this is Nyonje, followed by Bob Maio. Then number 3 is Sele. All right. Let's try another one, okay?
So it's apart from being getting the right answer, it also tests your speed. So the
Sure,
points
sure.
are awarded according to not just the right answer, but how quick you were in, yeah. So
Oh, okay. You have to wait until the next. All right. This we will not grade you based on this. This is a test. We will bring in the real questions next. Okay. We have another one. Next. True or false? We have 4 divisions in Africa. That should be easy. Don't shout the answer. Just answer. You don't have to shout the answer. Don't worry, you can follow. The real question that will be awarded is coming after the test quiz. We have 3, not 4. Nyonje has dropped. And KO. All right, the last one now. Revelation 6:12 was the key text from today's morning devotion. Revelation 6:12 was the key text from today's morning devotion. True or false? You have 9 seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now you know the game, right? Now you know the game, right? Okay? So let's go back to kahoot.it. Now on this, we'll be awarding the winner. Because what we have with our test, the winner is, let's wait and see, Bob Maio. Who is Bob Maio? Okay. He's the winner. Unfortunately, we are not giving any. That was just a trial version. Now the real thing is coming, okay? Now for the real one, please make sure you are fast enough to get as much point as you should, okay? All right. New pin. We have a new pin. Go back to kahoot.it. Kahoot.it. I have only 7 questions here. Be fast enough to get enough points so that you be the winner. You are ready? You are there, waiting for game pin, right? Okay. All right. We have only 3. But if you are 5 people, we'll negotiate with the elder guy to make sure that the gifts are enough. You can be all number one, and all of you will get something. We are ready. Oh. Just a minute. Was enough time for you to practice and think of, revise your notes properly. Okay, we are ready. Game pin 5991810. It's coming up on your screen. 5991810. Okay. Is there someone still logging in? We have 48. No one is 48, 48. Okay, 49. All right. We have 50 now, 51. Can we start? Okay. We are good to start. All right. Ready? Question 1. There are 7 questions. Is the first ever Ecd ICT Congress. True or false? Think through and tap on the right answer. 3 seconds, 2, 1. All right. Let's see who has scored highest. Question number 1. Mukwa. No. Mukwa, then Jerry, then KOO. Next question. You saw the right answer. Dash and contingency are pertinent for the achievement and sustainability of the church's mission. That was the summary of dash and backup and continuity, disaster and recovery, resilience and recovery, resilience and disaster. Okay, let's see who scored in that highest. Mukwa was number 1 the other time. Oh, this time we have T and G, then Akiko, then Chris. Okay, next question. What's the current membership of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Ecd? 6 million, 4 million, 5 million, 10 million. That should be easy. Please don't guess. Revise your notes if you have time. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good enough, all of us tapped on something. All right, next question. Next question. Here we had The last time we had who leading? Akiko is coming up strongly. TG was leading and is nowhere in the first page. Please pull up your socks, TG. All right, next question. Who preached during the morning's devotion? That should be, well, that's a bonus. Okay. All right, you have 2 seconds to think through. Okay. Who is the winner here? At this point, we have... Oh, Akiko is still leading. All right, next question. Today's keynote speaker, Jerome Abimana, came to Kenya for the first time in... According to... Was it 1988, 1986, 2006, 1976? Well, if you are attentive, should have captured that. 1986. All right, who is leading? Oh, Akiko. Akiko is dropping. Menta is coming up. All right, we have a few more to go. True or false? Thembin Kosi is the SID Communication Director. No, Thembi should not answer that if he's playing. 47 people have responded so far, and you have 7 minutes, seconds, sorry. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That should be easy. If you missed the introduction part, sorry for you. All right, please redeem yourself. This should be the last one. Oh, Kiko is up again. Okay, Kiko, you're doing so well. All right. To the last question, what is CFM? Church finance management, church finance money system, financial management system is also there. Church finance management structure is also there. Miss that, I don't know what you'll get. Time up. Okay. All right. Now let's get the winner. We'll to the podium. Let's recognize Akiko as number 3. Let's clap for Akiko. And number 1, we have Menta as number 2, and number 1 is Chris. Philip will note the names. Let's recognize. Who is Akiko? Akiko. Oh, okay. Akiko, please rise. Chris. Where's Chris? Chris. And then Menta. Oh, no. You are disqualified. No, Hagai is disqualified. Well, Hagai will delegate his victory. Hagai will hand over his victory to someone else on this. We'll pick number 4. In that case, we'll pick number 4, okay? All right. Philip will note your names. Then there's something for you. Otherwise, thank you so much. Be attentive, take notes.
The disclaimer is I didn't see those questions in advance. I think I answered wrongly Thembi's question because I knew he's from SID. So when I saw SID before I finished reading, lesson in IT, they never rush. Always take your time. When someone is explaining to you their problem, don't rush. Listen to them until the end. I'm glad that Olana is here, so those gifts will not come from Hagai. It will come from my elder Olana. Thank you. This afternoon we have 2 other presentations. Thank you so much, John and Justus. We look forward to another session tomorrow. We have 2 more presentations. First one will come from Lemmy. Lemmy comes to us from Total Solutions. When you talk about servers, we use servers for SunPlus, we use servers for domain services and a few other things. There are companies who are HP partners, IBM partners, and also Dell partners. We normally discourage people from buying these servers from people who just sell without any accreditation to these companies. And Total Solution is one of the companies that we've worked with to supply us with servers that serve us for 10, 15 years without a problem. Another thing is, what is it that you need to look at when you want to choose a server? For example, if you have an office of 3 accountants, must you choose a DL 380 server, for example? Or do you go for an entry-level server? How about the operating systems that we are talking about currently? Do we know them? When do you think of cloud computing as opposed to local server? What are the decisions you're supposed to make? So lately, if those who have been implementing SunPlus in the offices, we try to go for entry-level servers. Because we realize sometimes we buy big servers and we only use 10% of their capacities. So he's going to talk to us about that for about 45 minutes. And Lemmy is an enterprise solution specialist. He has over 15 years experience, and he has a master's in IT studies. He's an MCT, HP, and IBM enterprise solution specialist, ISO security and OMS, QMS auditor. Is a member of these professional bodies, Microsoft, PMI, ISO, ESACA, and he works at Total Solutions. He is KRA Teams Technology Advisor. He's a mentor, facilitator, and program recruiter for the PDTP program for the ICT board. This is a presidential program. He's also accompanied by Paul Mwendwa, who is a Microsoft certified professional, the CCNA, cybersecurity professional, Microsoft Azure architect. He works at Total Solutions as an architect, a solutions architect. So welcome Lemmy to come and make a presentation. Please take notes if you want to take my position tomorrow. Take note. But if you realize I don't sleep in meetings, ever much I'm tired. Because they say you gain knowledge. If you struggle with sleep, just stand up and be at a corner somewhere. Don't miss some information because of sleep, and at night you're going to be doing that. Just sleep. Thank you.
That was quite an introduction. Thank you, Haggai. I think I'm audible enough. As mentioned, I'm Lemmy Manja, and it's a pleasure to come here. Haggai invited me, and that is quite an honor and respect for to come here and talk to you. And what we are going to talk about is we are going back to basics. Okay, what we tend to neglect, because sometimes we call ourselves engineers, and you know what happens to any engineer? Something basic. They'll want to think big, okay? And that's why sometimes you find your child can solve a problem faster than you can, because you escalate it and you see it's something so big. So as we prepare for the presentation, because we are waiting to cast it, is one thing we should ask ourselves. We have technology, and we have the people. and we have the organization. What drive the other? These are questions that I'm asking you. What will drive the other? Is it you who is going to drive the technology? Is it the organization that is driving the technology? Or is it the environment that is driving that technology? I need an answer. Just generally. What drives the other? Technology. I need another one. Just a second. What drives the other? All of you are right in a way. Okay? Do you pull or push technology? Do you let technology pull you, or are you supposed to push it? Is technology supposed to pull you, or are you supposed to push it? Again, when it comes to the organization, you are supposed actually to push the technology to the organization. If you let technology pull you, it means you're being reactive, okay? And being reactive in such an industry that right now, almost each and every organization depends on you. They see you as a solution provider. It's same as a doctor. Doctor will use his knowledge, and through research, he knows how to treat. So each and every day, there are new viruses that come out. Okay? So if we let the virus come out, then we start researching. How many people will die? So that your client, as we speak, is that organization. Everyone is your client. Okay, another question. Who owns this technology? Is it the organization? Is this you as in the individual in the company? Who owns the technology? At least this time, we are backbenchers are known to be a bit sleepy in the afternoon. I need an answer from a backbencher. Let me decide. Yes. All this we'll answer during our presentation. Because one thing, and it's a big mistake, that any ICT practitioner does is you end up owning the technology instead of letting the various departments own it. You'll be told that this is the IT budget. It's not an IT budget. I'll disapprove you. Okay? Because if it's an IT budget, it means it's going to the IT department. And you can confess, I've been also in the industry, the IT department, most workers use the oldest computers in the organization. Is it true or false? Okay? So actually, the best way of approaching it is you have heads of department for each department. Okay? You identify the needs, you push the needs to the head of the department so that they know that in my department, if I don't achieve this, or if I don't procure this, I'll miss out on 1, 2, 3. Okay? So you are supposed to split your IT budget into the various departments that are there. With that, we'll start the presentation. And it's quite simple. We said we are going back to the basics. Don't think too high, because at the end of the day, the technology that you're supposed to push to the organization is supposed to work for the organization. And when you're choosing any technology that you want to drive to your organization, you have also to be part and parcel of the strategic goals for your organization. Because whatever you're trying to sell to your organization, because you're actually trying to do a POC, that this is what you need, should work for a given time so that you can realize the return on investment. Okay? Haggai has truly said that they have some servers that have worked for even 15 years. All this is because the requirements at the point of pre-purchase, they were gotten correctly. Once you miss out on the requirement and the need of that, then you'll miss out on everything, because either you'll buy what is too highly spec'd, and that means also the cost is quite high, or you'll buy something that is way low than what you need to have. Okay? So, Paul? Total Solutions, as Haggai has said, we've been in the technology industry for over 20 years. We do end-to-end solutions. We don't provide a product. There are two different things about selling a product and selling a solution. When selling a product, I'll just, you'll send to me what you need. I'll quote as per that and then supply. But when you want a solution is what will work for you, because when you're selling a solution, you work with the client. You become a partner with the client because you need to understand their needs and why that request. So we've worked with SDA for quite some years, and that's how we have approached it, solution-based, not product-based, because you first get this is the solution to your needs, then you go for the product. Okay? So by mentioning end-to-end, is from supply of the product, support of that product, and by support I mean back-end support and front-end support. Back-end support is whereby you need your warranties to be taken care of. You don't need to run up and down. So you have a partner that takes care of that. And that brings in a very important point is how you purchase your product really determines on how that product is going to serve you and the support you'll get from it. Because Haggai has truthfully mentioned that we have different players in the market. And for us, we call it the gray market and the channeled market. Channeled, I mean, is you're going to an authorized partner to purchase your product. So if it is HP, you go to an authorized HP partner. And there are different levels of partnership. There's just a reseller and an enterprise support specialist, and at the end, there is one who takes care of the warranty, so your repairs. Okay? So how do you identify that someone is a qualified partner? It's simply by going online and typing the name of the company according to what you want to search for the product. Okay, they will be listed. So for us, we are partners with different solutions, which you'll see at the end of the presentation. And that's what we front to our clients. Okay? At this moment, I'll also welcome Paul to take us through some part of the presentation, and I'll be coming in some other bits where we'll need. Again, it's not a listening only call. We need some interaction. We have to interact, okay? Where there's a question, where you need clarification, if there's anything that will not have touched, feel free so that we can engage. Let's have an engaging presentation. Okay. Paul?
Good afternoon, everyone. First, thank you for welcoming us. So, as Lemia said, we are going back to the basics. I believe all of us here have taken a course, be it related to IT or something. And when we are taking those courses, there was something that was called the gathering the requirements. That was taught. But in the industry, from experience, that does not happen in the true world. So, and that's where we miss most of our clients' requirements. So, because the topic is about servers, let's discuss servers. As we know that servers are the core in every organization. There is no organization that will exist without having a server. And what is a server? I know my audience is IT savvy, so let's interact. What is a server in your opinion? I'll not go to the backbenchers this time. So I volunteer from the front. What is a server?
Can you say in French?
As long as you have a translator.
Okay, thank you. Un serveur, I can say in French? Okay. Un serveur est défini comme une machine, un ordinateur puissant qui donne des ressources, qui fournit des informations à des utilisateurs.
A rightful translator.
Okay, thank you. I can try. A server is a computer who give information to users.
Thank you. It's correct because it's serving something. So that means there are some people or some clients who need that service. That's correct. And what comprises of a server? What are we serving? We are serving data. We are serving information. And for us to store that information, there are critical things that we need to have on that server. Number one, we must have a place to store. So we need storage, and that comes with the disks. Something else we need from our server, we have the storage. We need to process something. So there's another element that we need to have in our server. Now backbenchers. Elements of our server. We have indicated that we have the storage. Something else that a server must have for it to become a server, yes? A good processor. A processor. Something else. We have the storage. We have the processor. What else?
Paul, I need you let's have gender balance.
Oh, yes.
So, our rightful ladies. What else will you need in a server?
Ladies.
Just think of anything.
Yes. Correct. It's true. There must be a network. It's part of the environment, but it's not part of the server. But a good trial. Something else.
should be secure.
True, it should be secure, but that's not a I'm looking for components. Sorry?
Let's
Service.
let's do like this. You want to get a car. What should a car have? A car must have an engine, isn't it?
Yeah.
And depending on the size of the engine, will determine the cc of the engine and how powerful that engine, that car is. Okay? There are cars that are manual, there are cars that are automatic. Now,
Correct. But, oh yes.
hard drive is very important because
Hard
we
drive
are
is
looking at
important.
storage.
Storage.
Yes.
An operating system, that's a key component because that's the blood of the whole metallic infrastructure inside there. Memory.
Yes.
That's what I was looking for. Memory. Because for it to serve, it needs to have something somewhere to store whatever it wants to serve when it processes. So at least everyone here has an idea of what a server is. Now, when you're in your organization and you are requesting for a server, because as the receiving end, I get a request for send us a quotation of a server. And with all these elements we have discussed, is that enough information for me to give you a quotation for a server? If you send me a quotation saying, please supply us with a server, is that information enough for me to make a decision on what you need? So there's something that needs to be done before I quote a server for you. And that's what I was saying, getting the client requirements. What do you need? What do you need to do with that particular server? If you are only you have 10 employees running an accounting system, where do you think I should get those requirements from? In this scenario, you're an organization of 10 employees running an accounting system. So for me to get you a server, what information do you think you should provide me to give you a quotation for a server? Any ideas? Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Let me interject.
It was very specific.
You are very specific. There's something that has driven you to get those specifications. Do you have the requirements in mind by the time you arrived at the specifications that you've just mentioned?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the number of users of the system.
Yes.
Yes, the work environment. How does it compute? What is the resource intensiveness of that application? Uh-huh. Correct. I think that's the most correct answer so far. Because this application, we have different applications to do that particular job. And each vendor of our system, the application software, has also set up some basic requirements for that application to run. Then when you correlate that information with the number of people that are going to utilize that application, then from there, we can do an analysis and get the optimal requirements for a server.
Now, at that point, it's a very important point, and I think, have we really understood that point? It has been mentioned, and Paul has mentioned it, yes, in a very basic technological language, but have we understood? You have applications that are running on the server. at this moment, let me forget about the server. You need to buy a server. What application are you going to run? How many people do you want to serve? And the simple way you can think of a server is the same way you get into an hotel. Okay? You book a table. From that table, you'll get a waiter. Okay? A waiter will serve not one table, but will serve more than one table. And how is it determined? By the number of tables that a waiter can serve. Is it not measured first? So they measure, according to their statistics, that one waiter can serve up to 5 tables. Okay? Not more than that. So if you order your food, there's a given time that you expect that food to come. Okay? That is the same way. Translate that into you want to order a server because it's coming to serve the same way the waiter is serving. You, when you get to the restaurant, the server is coming to serve. So when your food delays, you'll start making noise. That is the same way, the same principle that is applied in the work environment. Because you purchase a server, you've promised a lot to the end user. But when the end users are seeking the services they need, there's a delay. Okay? So where do they run? They'll not run up. They'll start by you and slowly escalate the issue. So the problem comes back to you. So the word that Paul has mentioned that you need to contact. You see, you have various applications, and these applications have been given to you by a vendor. The vendor has their requirements. It's not your requirements. They know what their application should run on. So when you get the requirements, you'll ask them, what is the minimum requirement? Don't go with the minimum. Just go average, and don't oversize again. Okay? Paul, over to you.
Yes. To summarize on that, when you are doing an order for a request for a quotation for a server, so the first thing we have agreed is get the specifications from the application vendor, get to know who are going to use that application, the number, so that we can correlate. From there, we'll get the processing power, the one he was saying, the 3.0 processor. We'll know the storage, because in that data, we should be able to know we are going to store this kind of amount of data for a given period of time. Then the other thing is I saw something that was written here, the business continuity and the fault tolerance. Because when you go to the servers, there are critical servers that you cannot afford to even lose a minute. Let's take a scenario of a banking institution. And you being the end users of that system, you are trying to access your money through a mobile application. You want to to settle a bill, then that system is down. How do you feel about that experience? You are trying to access your money from your bank, and that system is not available. Is it a good feeling? So that bank cannot afford to have even a downtime of 1 second. So from there, we have introduced another requirement. What's the criticality of that system? Because that will inform the number of servers that you are going to require, the components of that server. Because as he had indicated, he said that a server must have a power supply. When you go to the entry-level servers, most of them come with only one power supply. The mid-range come with 2. Why do you think they come with 2? For fault tolerance. So that in the event that one power supply is faulty, you still have time to replace the faulty one while you are still using the other one. When it comes to hard disks, I know most of you know something called as RAID. Why do you have RAID on a server? So that if one disk fails, you will have enough time to replace that other disk before you have lost your data. And that's where we go to the categorization of servers in terms of the entry level, the mid-range, and the advanced. For an entry-level server, this is the basic. In fact, for an organization with 10 users, we can say that let's go for an entry-level server. That's most of the criteria that entry-level business use. But still, we should still go back to getting the requirements right. The other level is the mid-range. So these servers offer a great potential for expansion, because you find that a mid-range level server is like what a guy had stated, a DL something, because those are most of the servers that are sold in this market. A DL has 2 slots for processors. So that means that when you are buying it, you will get it with 1 processor, but when your processing power increases, you can get another processor and add on it. It comes with 2 power supplies, and the basic, the entry-level one for mid-range comes with a bay of 16 disks. So that means for an SMB, before you exhaust that, you will have recouped your investment.
I can just add on that. When you come to servers and talk about processors, okay, we also talk about cores, even that is currently to the end users, okay? What is the number of cores? Cores means is like processors within the processor, okay? So you'll find people talking about, I need a 10-core, I need an 8-core, I need a 4-core server. It's just simply saying it's one processor that has cores within it. Why were the cores created? This was in preparation for what we all know as virtual computing. So when you want to have virtual computers within the same box, okay? So you can allocate the virtual processors per each and every virtual machine or virtual servers within, okay? Now, the term that you'll see when we quote or when we respond to your request will not be like just a processor. You'll see what is written as sockets, okay? A server that comes with 1 socket, that means that server has only 1 place that you can put a processor, okay? If it is written 2 sockets, it means that what Paul has mentioned in the mid-range, you'll find is telling you it comes with 2 sockets, but 1 socket has a 10-core processor, okay? So it means once you utilize that, and you need more processing, you can go and buy a second processor and put in the second socket. This is very important to note because it also goes along with the software that you are going to request, okay? So that we'll mention after Paul finishes on that, the area of types of servers.
So the next one is the advanced servers. And okay, these ones are mostly for the critical application, like I had mentioned, for financial institutions. Because for a bank, in rare cases, will you find them deploying a DL something for their core banking system. Because even in an organization, there are different requirements for different departments, for different applications. Because for a bank, the core banking system is more important. I'll not say compared to the payroll system, but I think because that's where their business line is. And on that, we go to the brands. Because in terms of the entry, mid-range, and advanced, that's something that will be informed by the requirements. Let's go to the brands, because brands matter. And how do we say a brand is more important than another brand? There are things that we look for. The reputation of that brand. That's why many people prefer to go for an Apple phone than an Android phone. An Huawei, a Cisco, or something else. Because the brand has some intrinsic value by virtue of it being that brand. And in this scenario, we have selected brands depending on how we get support when there is an issue. How easy is it to get a part replaced? And how is their warranty? Because you don't want to buy a server from a brand that you are not sure that tomorrow you will be able to get a hard disk when yours fails. And by this, we have 3 brands, and I've ranked them as how we perceive them in terms of how they have given us support, the availability of spare parts, and their warranty resolution. So HPE, formerly they were called HP, but this HP Enterprise division, that's the one that deals with the servers. We have the Dell servers. They have all these brands have all the ranges. We have entry level, mid-range, and advanced. Then Lenovo. Lenovo was formerly the IBM. I think Len can elaborate more on that, on the acquisition of Lenovo by IBM.
As we all know, IBM is known for very advanced and high-end computing power. When you look at the banking sector, you look at very critical systems, the medical field. Most big data centers, they run on IBM servers. And even when you come to applications like Oracle, okay? I think all we know the history about IBM and Oracle. There's like, it's one company that acquired the other. Lenovo came into play when IBM purchased Lenovo so that they can get into the entry level, okay, solution. Because IBM was missing out in that. So they acquired Lenovo so that they can also have the entry level and mid-range servers other than the enterprise servers, okay?
Yeah, so we have discussed the hardware.
Before even we jump to this, I was expecting a bit of an interactive session because as I said, the way we approach is a solution-based. The information that you are giving you will not be given with any, just randomly with any player that you want to ask for quotations. So it's really critical when you want to purchase any hardware. The first question that we started with should ring into your minds, okay? Because when it comes to servers, it's very critical. It's not something that you'll change overnight because you know there are different players. You bring in a server, high chances of what you'll do is to prepare the hardware, isn't it? You have another person who comes to prepare the application that is going to sit on it. So it means when the server goes down, the time to bring it up, okay? How much time will you take? That is 1. 2, what critical services will be affected within the organization? So, even thirdly is how quickly can you change to another platform or another hardware? So you have to be very keen on this as we go to words mentioning a bit about cloud computing. We will not go to the details. As we said, today is just basic. Maybe later in later interactions, we'll go into details of each component. Paul?
For the deployment of servers, when you ask for that quotation, there are things that you also look at. How many servers are you looking for? Because for normal use, one server can meet your requirements. But now when you look at the availability of that particular service, the criticality of the service that you want to provide from that server, that's when you start considering things like clustering, having a high availability set, doing virtualization. Virtualization is the basic fundamental for cloud computing. Because from experience, and all of you know you have some knowledge of IT, there's nothing new that comes into creation of IT. It's just getting the basics, because if we start from the hardware, we add something on top, it becomes something different. Then we add another thing on top, it becomes something different. So in that case, we are trying to remove the effort that a human being, a person, interacts with the system and make it more usable. By then doing, we have lessened the work that a human being needs to input into the system to get a result. If we go back to the history of computers, when I was in campus, I was being told of slots, punched cards, that somebody had go to sit in a desk, punch cards, then do something. So the human effort was so huge. But when you compare to this day, even provisioning a server does not have the same value that it was 5 years ago. Some people used to brag about how many servers they can set up. But nowadays, no one cares about who can install a server, who can do what. What the client wants is the service. And by then, we have these applications like the virtualization that Lemmy alluded to. And the virtualization brought about cloud computing. And if I can ask a question, why do you think it is called cloud computing? Why the word cloud? Any question, any answers? Why you think it's called cloud computing?
Paul, should I answer that?
Huh?
I answer.
Yeah, you can answer.
It's called cloud computing because there's a cloud that surrounds your system. Is that the answer? By you laughing, I know you have an answer, isn't it? Okay, let me get an answer now.
Mm-hmm.
In the cloud.
Just like heaven.
Where heaven is. Now.
Yes.
Any other?
Cloud computing are servers who are hosted on internet, who store and process and manage data.
Okay. Paulo, do you want to allow me also to add something?
You want to?
I add something?
Ask.
I'm not asking this time. Okay? You've said somewhere in the World Wide Web. Where is this World Wide Web? Now, when you talk about cloud computing, don't think wide again. Again, this is our problem. I always come and pin down on any administrators and all that. We just want to think big, okay? We want to use jargons and all that. By just talk simply. The clouds collect themselves. Even when rain forms, you have several clouds that come together, okay? Then create rain. You don't expect rain from a white cloud, isn't it? Yeah? I think in our science classes, those times we had different names of the clouds. And that's how cloud computing is categorized. You have specific clouds. You have a private cloud. You don't need internet for a private cloud. And you have a public cloud. A private cloud can operate with and without internet, okay? And again, when we start discussing about that, is the medium and to which you want to connect to this cloud, okay? So when you're choosing about cloud, it's a really wide topic, and this is something that every one of us should have the knowledge too. Because right now, when you talk about software, when you talk about hardware, when you talk about processing, when you talk about services, they are referred to this as a service, infrastructure as a service, application as a service, storage as a service, okay? So we have so much under that. And that question again, I'll say as the normal term I use, let it ring in your minds, because where we are coming from and where we are going, and it is you people who are supposed to drive this vehicle. No one else will drive the vehicle. If you give it to someone else, you'll get an accident. Okay? So, Paul, you have something else on that?
Did I get an answer? Why cloud? Why not ocean? No, why not something else? It's because for simplicity. Because we don't, you see, it has been abstracted. We don't know, and we don't want to know what is below. What you need is your service. You need to transact from your bank. You don't want to know how it goes from your mobile phone and you get your money. So it is the abstraction part of it where it's called a cloud. It's clouded. But there's one thing that says that cloud is a server. It's a physical server somewhere in a person's data center. There are people managing that service, and you pay for the service, not for what is underlying there. As what Lemia said, you can also have your own cloud inside here. To the users, they don't care. They don't want to know what happens from when they click a button from their desktop to when they get the report that they want. So it is your duty as the IT personnel to make sure that cloud reigns. How the rain is formed is none of their business. Them, they want water. So, and that's where it comes to making a decision. Do you want to manage servers? Do you want to put your energy all day, 365 days in a year, making sure that the server is on, there is power, the UPS is there, or you want to delegate that responsibility to another person to make sure that it is his core business, to make sure that your service is available as for the SLA that you engage with that third party. So the IT department for a long time was being seen as a cost center. It always wants to consume. It does not generate revenue. Because, okay, I don't know, I'm not going to answer the reason why that was the case. Because you want to spend most of your time asking for the finance department for this one is not working, we need money too. How can you transform that to be a source of revenue for the organization? And a source of revenue can be by saving. You see, if you don't consume, you have generated. That's true. But if your job is to ask, we want to replace. And what the cloud computing jargon brought about was something called capital expenditure. We don't want to put a lot of money upfront to get these servers, this equipment. While somebody can rent you that space, you pay a monthly subscription, a yearly subscription. That one is a very wide topic, so we'll not discuss that, but it's something that from today, from this session, is something that you should think about when you are requested for a server. Can you think outside getting a box from Total Solutions and coming, setting it up in your environment? Is there something else that you can utilize to save your organization money and So, when we are saying about the private, it's something called the on-prem. On-prem is what is called as the private cloud. You set your data center, you avail services to your users. Then the other one is hybrid. Because if you decide to go to cloud, you can decide to have some applications due to legal requirements, risk that for some level of data should not leave your organization. Then you have other kind of data that can leave your organization. For instance, emailing solutions. At this point of time, I don't think you need to have an Exchange administrator in your environment. I'm not firing Exchange administrators if you are here. That's a service you can outsource. You have a cloud solution for your email solution. You can do Google, whatever, Microsoft Exchange online. So those are some of the things that we say that this one, I don't need to have an entire team of 5 people looking after one Exchange server for emails to flow in an organization. Then the other thing is before we go to the end users, when it comes to the cloud, the good thing about the cloud, you can scale. Let's say today, I'll give an example of an election. When a country is doing an election, I think you bear with me that there'll be a very high requirement for processing power for a very short period of time. Do you think a wise government will invest in buying servers, in infrastructure it should take less than a week?
Yeah, just a week.
Do you think it will be a wise decision for a government to invest those kind of resources for an election? I know we have finance department people here, the money people. Is it wise? Okay, in my own opinion, I don't think it's wise. If we can get a person or an entity that can rent us that compute power, we use it for the specific period that we require, and if there is need to go upwards, depending on the tally, they can scale up for 24 hours, 5 minutes, and we are billed for what we have used. In case of investing a lot of millions for a one month event. So those are the key things that you should consider when we said you are pushing solutions, you are pushing technology to your organization. We look at which way will save us, which way is saving the organization.
Paul, you are about to go to the end user.
Yes.
Are we done with servers?
We can never be done with servers.
Haggai, how much time do you have? 15. Should we continue or we leave the stage? Servers again, and why I'll put an emphasis on this. We've mentioned about how to spec for the hardware. Is it clear? Or you have some questions on that? Again, kindly note, as I mentioned, the software that you'll purchase on the servers determines by the hardware that was selected. Because you might end up buying more than you require, again in software, or less than what is required. When you buy less, you know the legal implications, okay? And again on software, be very keen. The software that you use has to be licensed. Times have changed. It's not like before you could use a pirated license. Right now, let no one lie to you, you can use it. If you get any pirated license, know that there's a hacker behind. And that's where you find organizations are suffering from attacks. Currently, What is the most dangerous attack that you can have in any organization from outside? Yeah? Ransomware. And when ransomware comes, will you put your trousers on? You run to solve it, isn't it? Because there are two things that will save you from ransomware. If you don't have a backup, you're done. According to the practice, and all of us are in this industry, either you are in one body or the other, you are not supposed to pay any hacker. Because let them not lie to you that when you submit this number of bitcoins or dollars, that will get your information. That information, once it has been opened, it is vulnerable. Even if you get it back, it comes back still with the malware, okay, that they can still access. So what will save you is religiously, and I say religiously, doing your backups, confirming your backups, okay? And upon confirming your backup, securing those backups. What, again, the mistake we make is, you do your backup, then you assume. We get lazy until when you are attacked. So you start reacting. What has happened? Technology has controlled you. You have not controlled the technology. And you have been employed specifically for that. And if you cannot do that work, someone else would be found to do that work. Okay? Again, when we are talking of servers and cloud computing, where do you stand as a IT practitioner? Will you not have any value after everything is replaced? What values do you give to your organization? What is your strength? Okay? Some of us get scared when you want to transition to any technology. And I'm sorry, it starts from the IT itself. And this being scared, if you're scared, what will happen to other departments that you want to give the technology to? And that's where you have what is called change resistance. Okay? Even that server you want to put there's someone who is doing that work manually. Okay? So, and that person that is doing that work manually, most of the time, the first department, and you can see the history of servers and computing started with the finance department. IT has been known for those years as a supporting department for the finance department. Okay? Then we get to the financial institutions like the banks. That's where the IT was first fully embraced. And hence formation of an IT department as a support department for the finance department. So you are trying actually, when you push the technology into the organization, these are people who are going to be affected by that technology. So there are two things, depending on your approach. Either you'll get resistance or you'll get support. That's why we are not supposed to be just hardwired. You have to learn also soft skills on how best you can push that. Because even when you're going to buy that server, it's not you who's going to sign that check or authorize for the server to be bought. So how do you sell this idea? By selling the idea, you have to sell the values that that server is coming to bring into that organization and what the organization will save by having the server that you've proposed. And that's why when you spec wrongly and you buy a very high-end server, you'll start getting complaints that, why this? This was too much. And there's someone else who will come and audit that system. If I'm called to audit, I'll say the truth. This server that you bought is way high-end, and who will be in problems? It is you. Okay? If it is not performing, you don't need even an external person to come. If the first people will be complaining are the people who are being served by that server because they are seeing they have invested, and the services they are receiving are not even better. Okay? So it's a topic that when we jump to the end user, you really, really, really need to secure your backend. Truthfully, get the right specification for the backend, because that is what will determine on how others are going to be served. Okay?
My last question. Who gets the most expensive laptop in an organization? Who? The president. Why does he get the most expensive laptop? Because he's the boss. It's a good thing. It's good to be a boss. But who do you think should get the most expensive laptop? Huh? Should we discuss that, or we just let it rest? Okay, let's discuss in undertones.
Again, that expensive laptop you're talking about, are we talking about the look of the laptop or the specs
of course,
of
those
that
things
laptop?
go together. If it's 2,000 USD, everything will be...
Yeah. Yes?
The IT person. But
the question is, who should get the most expensive laptop? That's the question.
Or let's translate the expensiveness into power, the most powerful. Thank you very much.
Actually, you've answered what we wanted to.
Thank you.
You can as well come and present that part.
Yes.
Okay? Yeah. It's actually a big mistake that organizations make. Okay? And where does it come from? It doesn't come from the boss. The boss doesn't know even I'm telling you, I'm sorry to say. It is you who sees and fears, because this is my boss. He needs to be seen with the most expensive laptop. And I'm not supposed to own anything expensive than the boss. And in real sense, what does the boss access? Most bosses access only refined information. They don't process the information. There are people who processes that information. The boss needs report. Do you need high processing power to generate reports? Okay? So who is the problem here? Is it you or your boss?
Who is misadvising who? Because I think the boss...
Then why are you there? That's a wrong assumption, okay? It's a very wrong assumption. And that's why the notion has always remained IT is expensive. IT is not expensive. It's the IT practitioners that are making it expensive. They try to make things very complex to an organization so that the organization can feel this is too complex. The best way is to simplify everything. Talk to them about processing power and what they need. What your boss needs is just look. Okay? A nice look, a small one, okay? How it appears. Because they are walking all over and they need to be seen carrying something that is good looking. There's no one within the audience will go and say, hey, what processing power are you running at? No. He's interacting with his peers. The peers will just want to see that the person, it's something that is looking nice. And you know, sometimes the ugliest laptops are the ones that are most expensive. because most of these laptops, some of them, when you come and talk about rugged laptops, someone who is walking from one place to the other, constantly presenting, will need something that is rugged. Rugged means when it falls down, it's not that delicate, it's not that shiny that it starts coming out all over. Okay? So, kindly, again, we are coming back to you. You are supposed to give your organization the direction. If you don't, I'm sorry to say I'm the one who's coming. I'll come in as a outsourced and advise the organization. And what happens to you? Do you want to put yourself into that picture that I'm there? I'm trying to tell you, no. What is this? Okay? My report comes, the same boss Ulukona Nini will be sitting there. And I'll be sitting here and you're sitting there. You have been employed, you are being paid, and maybe you're about to be given your bonuses. They are not yet out. Okay? And this meeting happens before that. What happens next? Okay? In conclusion, what I always tell people, and people in our industry, just like the doctor will not own the disease that you go with them, to them, don't own the problems of the organization. You are supposed to give direction. The organization will have its strategic goals, and most strategic goals go for 5 years plus. It is you to develop IT goals that are going to drive the strategic goals. And how do you do this? It's through technology, because you are the one to propose what is the right technology to drive that. We've mentioned about different technologies. So go back again and check on the technologies that are there. The world is moving to IoT. There are different solutions under that. Under us, there are solutions that we are actually driving in IoT, whereby we've done several factories that are running purely on robotics within the country. Like a full bakery that used to have like 300 workers, Broadways and Ken Africa. Yeah? 600 workers. Right now it's running on how many workers? 100 workers. Okay? And these 100 workers are not running in the plant. They are for distribution. Because everything is being controlled. So the human power is being replaced by technology. And here is whereby those people who are in the industry and are lazy in the industry will just fade out. And that's why you find people who have practiced for long, sometimes they are left behind. Okay? Young minds that are come out of campus, they come with very brilliant ideas. But what they do, they lack the patience. What an old practitioner will have. Okay? So how, even new, when you bring them into the organization, how are you mentoring them into the industry? How are you utilizing that, the power they have? Don't try to compete with them because you can never win. These kids are very bright. It's like you take yourself back the years you came out of campus, what you could do. You don't have a risk, you don't have a family. You can stay all night even coding. There's no one. But here you have a family to take care of. You have work and all that. If you start carrying things at home, your spouse will start questioning because they need their time, quality time. Then you're stealing from them. Okay? So we've talked a lot, and again, not too much. It's basics that we always tend to forget. Okay? And by that, we've come to our end of our presentation. And unless there's any burning question, we can accommodate, or suggestions, or anything. The floor is open. let me take that question by question. For that, there's nothing impossible. Everything is possible as long as it was created or made. So the essence of talking about centralization that before we were talking about is whereby you put your core services, okay, centrally so that you can access them from there, okay? The services, to access the services is determined by the roads you create. Even, it's like right now you have a super highway and a single lane, which will be faster. So when you're creating anything to do with cloud computing or you're trying to form your own cloud, that means you're centralizing everything. You have to factor the route that you're going to use to access the services. And that is the connectivity from where you sit to where the services are, okay? The connectivity comes with the medium of access. Is it available in your place? Because right now you find the fastest is fiber. Do you have fiber all across until where you want to access? Because the minute you start changing the medium of access, the speeds are affected. Two, you have to consider the costs involved. Cost is end to end, from the hardware, from the medium of communication, okay? And the management, because you're trying now to centralize the management, because where is like you are just creating your own data center, a big one that people will access from. And when you create any data center, you have to have a disaster recovery center, okay? The minute you centralize, you have to have a disaster recovery center that is not near each other. And both of them should be running. Again, you look at the cost of running all that. Does it make sense? Okay? I'm very sure the way you're running today, people sat down and saw what is best. Okay? So for you to change, just like what we started with, you go back and analyze all this. Okay? You don't just create a change from nowhere. Yeah? There is a need, and from that, what is the technology that you're going to drive? And by choosing that, you don't choose a train, okay, to transport one cargo, okay, one container, which could have been transported by road with just one truck, okay? So there are several factors when you're doing that, and yes, it is possible. Again, that answer is like asking between chicken and egg, which comes first, okay? All of them are used depending on the environment. Again, you see, when you sit down and you want to run application as a service, that application will run under given infrastructure. So you might end up even buying infrastructure as a service, okay? By the time you get to an application, because the application you're buying has to run. Again, when you're doing that, you are running applications as a service. There are two models. Is it your application, or are you procuring the application from the service provider? If you want to run your own application, that means you have to get a virtual machine, which you'll purchase again. So that's, again, infrastructure as a service. Again, we'll purchase storage on the other end, where your application will run, okay? Yeah. But there are applications that are standard, which are created by the organizations. Like, if you want to run an ERP like SAP, SAP itself has that provision of running it as a service, okay? So you purchase from that. It's the same way we've talked about email and all that. Because Microsoft will have its product and run it to you as a service. So it is an application as a service to you. Again, storage, you'll purchase from them, okay? And it will come as a service. So all of them, depending on different scenarios, they are being used. Yeah. Security, there are different models. You can also, it is an added purchase, okay? You can purchase it differently. So do you want to secure the data or the entire environment that you're using? So it's totally a different ballgame. That best Paul can answer with very few words. Paul?
When it comes to cloud computing, and be it software as a service, infrastructure as a service, the only thing that is different is your responsibility. Because for software as a service, your responsibility ends, you are not going to manage the infrastructure. The servers where that application is not your responsibility. But the data in all the offerings, the data is your responsibility. That's why if you have an ERP running on cloud, backup is your responsibility. Even when you read the contract, they don't control whatever happens to your data. If there's a failure in that cloud, there's no way that you can sue them for your data loss. So that's why when you are provisioning for any cloud solution, there's being software as a service, make sure that you have backed up your data. If that infrastructure is attacked by ransomware, because your users are traversing that route to where that service is. So if you are attacked by negligence on your side, even if that data will be gone, and there's no way that you'll claim it from the solution provider. So the take home here is, even if you are on cloud, make sure that you have backed up your data, you have a business continuity plan, you can restore from a disaster. That is the only way that you'll be safe.
Is there any other question maybe as we conclude? If there's no any other question, I will thank you for giving us this platform to present whatever we presented. For any further interaction, Agai has our contacts. You can always contact us through Agai, and it will be good to engage. You cannot handle everything, because we say today is very basic, and whatever we've talked about is the fundamentals of what we always leave out. Okay? Thank you so much, Agai. Over to you.
Do you mind standing up for 1 minute? Let's stand and push the wall, push the wall, push the wall until you feel. I should have let the KDF guy to come and you'll be dead. All right, do this. And if I gave you those questions for competition after this presentation, how many will get 100%? All right. So they said in terms of warranty, availability of parts, and support, which company leads? HP, followed by? Then Lenovo. Did they say Lenovo only? Stock IBM, right? Good. So such knowledge is very important. I believe when you live here, you won't be the same. We are going to our last presentation this evening. Once you're done with this last presentation, we'll go and change into our sports gear and go to exercise. Right? If you want to live longer, normalize exercising. Right? So I'll want to welcome my brother and friend, Thembi Nkosi Moyo. He worked with him very closely. When I joined the church, my first trip was to Ecd. Then Thembi had not joined the church. There's a gentleman called Abisha Nyawasha, then introduced me to Thembi when Thembi came in, and we worked very closely. A lot of things we do in ECD and SID, we discuss. When I hear he has a solution, I call him and ask him, how does this work? He does the same. So Thembi has served the Adventist Church for 18 years as a technology innovator. He's blessed to be a natural problem solver. He has a passion for technology and how it can be used to solve problems that the mission of the church faces. The technology passion coupled with education equipped and motivated him to develop in the field of technology innovation. In the period of his service to the church, he has managed to introduce technology solutions to several different entities, including academic, media centers, churches, and administration levels of the church. Solutions such as networks, communication solutions, accounting system, reporting solution, and more. His background as an accountant and technology leadership has uniquely helped him in the role of Chief Information Officer, that's the CIO of SID. He has served as an accountant. Maybe I didn't know you were an accountant. That's nice. And system administrator at Zimbabwe Union Conference. If you want to be a millionaire, a billionaire, please talk to him. He'll give you some Zim dollars. System administrator and Heidelberg College, Information Technology Manager at Southern Africa Indian Ocean Division. He's currently serving as the CIO for the Southern African Indian Division. Thembi holds a master's in Information System Management and a BBA major in accounting. Thembi is also passionate about media and photography. He's a professional photographer. This one you can say again, I've seen the photo he's taken, they're sharp, right? So that's Thembi, and we want him to talk. Before he comes, let me also say, again, thank you so much, Lemmy and Paul. I called Lemmy yesterday. That's why you're not seeing his name in the program. I called him yesterday when the guy from GC was having visa issues. So he just said, we'll come. Thank you so much. They've been very close partners with us, and they give us genuine products. I never have their servers failing on me, even for 10 years without a problem. So Thembi, it's your time. Please come and tell us, how do we translate technology into mission? Do they relate?
Good afternoon, everyone. I don't think my presentation is relevant anymore. And you will see why. It's as if we all sat in one room and and discussed what we were going to do. So you'll see there's lots of duplications, but I hope you'll catch one or two new things in the process, and then let's see how far we go. All right. Let me just set up quickly here. All right. All right. Mac OS has changed how setups used to be, so we need to keep up to date with it as well. All right. Okay, so let me start over here. All right, so my presentation is basically technology and our mission as a church. And I chose a theme for the presentation of an iceberg. What we see at the top is less than what's underneath. Are we together? And that's how technology should be for the church. What the church member uses, what the church member consumes, what the administrators use, should be less than what is at the bottom. Are we together? This is the ideal, but I know we still have a long, long, long way to go. And I think as we go through the presentation, we will appreciate some of the challenges and the issues that we face as we try and make sure that we take advantage of this angel as we head in the morning called technology. So our mission, I know we have different entities in here, academic institutions and church entities and hospitals and bookshops. But our mission is very simple. What is our mission? To make what? Of who? Are we together? That is basically our mission. And why I do this is, sometimes we, as IT people, we are into the networking, IP addresses, the HCP scopes are not working, we are filled in, and we forget what we are there for. That's our biggest challenge. Sometimes we get swallowed by the technology and getting things working, that we forget our primary reason for existence. Are we together? I will share this presentation with us, Elder Guy, so that the gentlemen don't need to be taking pictures of it and not following. All right, so there are three things that I picked up that I think would be a good idea, because once you have a mission, then you as IT now needs to sit and say, okay, if it's a hospital, what is our mission as a hospital? How do we then use technology to address those needs? And I've looked at evangelism, for instance, as an example. Evangelism is our core activity. Are we together? It's a major activity of the church. Everything we do, Sabbath in, Sabbath out, has something to do with. Are we together, or I'm saying things that we don't know? Or maybe it's after lunch, eh? It's always difficult to present after lunch. Yeah. So evangelism is a key event or activity that we have. And evangelism is communication. So as an IT person, as you look at this, you must start thinking, okay, how can what I do help the church in effective communication? Are we together? So whatever solutions you have, whatever strategies you come up with, if you are addressing this, you are in the right track. Are we together? One of the biggest challenges I have had with my own IT people, and even in my work, was not fully understanding that as I presented any solution, the elders or the administrators are looking and saying, where does this thing, how does it help us do what we need to do? Are we together? So once we have that mission in our mind, we have example of communication evangelism. If you come up with a project, an IT project, where you say, okay, elders, we are going to develop a system that enables you from your desk in the division to send one message and every church member in the division receives a WhatsApp. Is that a good idea? Are we together? It's a good idea, right? It will help with communication. Very, 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 very good one, right? And then you say, but for it to happen, we need 5 million shillings. The treasurer will say, okay, you start thinking, where can we get the money to get this? Because he has already taken the value and understood what you are trying to do. Are we together? So those are some of the challenges I have seen with us IT people. I come from an accounting background, as you know, as you have now known. I used to work with treasurers. And the treasurer is looking at the income and expenses. As IT people, one free takeaway, home takeaway, please pay attention to understanding the basics of how the treasury department of your institution, of your organization works. Are we together? 90% of your success lies in just understanding how that operates, because now when you come with things and you have solutions and you have done that homework, you have a business case, as we call it, you have a business case that you've come up with, you have explained what are the costs, what are the benefits. I think we've already had this during this whole day. Once we answer those, our solutions are easier to sell. Are we together? We have less fights. We are kind of moving, and you've seen my presentation, we're kind of moving from just being a cost center where you are a black hole where if money goes in, it never comes out, because people don't see the value. Are we together? And I think if Elder Gaia permits, we will share some examples of how this has worked for us. Okay, for nurture and retention, we have things that we need to be able to retain members. If you come up with a tool that helps the church to retain members, you'll be surprised how fast it will move from your conference to the union, from your union to the division, from the division even to be adopted by the GC. Are we together? Because you are solving a problem that the whole church has when you come up with such solutions. So you're looking for innovation. Oh, by the way, we speak about innovation. I hope we all understand innovation simply means finding a new way to solve a problem. That's what it is, right? Am I correct? What is innovation? Maybe let me ask you a few questions. What is innovation? Anyone? Elder Guy, you're on the spot since people are not answering. Can I see union directors? Union directors, hands up. I'm going to classroom mode now. I'm going to be pointing. Yes, what is innovation, my brother? You're solving a problem in a new way. That's what innovation is. Are we together? You're not being required to create or to come up with a new method. No, you're just looking at a problem and say, okay, this problem, what solution can we get for it? And once you solve tools for retention, you'll be surprised how far that will help the church. Membership systems, we have an example of ACMS, good tool for membership. But guess what? It started in South America division. Somebody sat down and said, hey, this thing is becoming a headache. What are we going to do? And that solution now, we are using it here. Where did it come from? There. Because somebody saw a problem, and the division saw that it was a project worth investing in. And today, a guy will tell you that that division is something else. They have a place that's a building that's bigger than our two division offices put together. ECD and SID buildings put together just for IT. Employing almost 200 people, right? 300, yeah. 300 IT professionals, all of us put together, working for one IT department of the division. But that just didn't work up. They didn't just say, okay, guys, bring your CVs, come, let's. No. People were solving problems, real problems, stating what the value was, how much it was going to cost, doing their homework, and presenting those cases until this thing kept on growing. And that's where they are today. We are consumers today, and they are the ones who are providing some of our solutions because of that. Stewardship. And I'm happy that our division here is sorting this one very quickly and very nicely. Financial management, efficiency, and transparency. Our CFMS, right, is a good example of this. And we are all waiting for it to mature a little bit. You will be surprised where it will end up, because we are solving a major, major problem. And as you know, you guys have a lot of matured mobile money systems in Kenya here, M-Pesa and all of that. In other places, it's not yet that mature. So when that maturity comes, guess what? We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We'll just come and say, guys, let's partner and use what? Your solution, because we have solved a big problem. So as IT people, I've even said to my IT team, when an audit report is issued by GCAS, you must get a copy of it. Are we together? Look at the items that they've highlighted as problems. What do you think your treasurer or your CFO will say when you go and you say, we have a problem with collecting revenue or recording expenses? I have this solution I'm proposing to solve this problem. Do you think they'll tell you there's no money? Huh? Guys, do you know the power of a GCAS audit report? Do you know the power of that report? You need to understand how your church operates. If you don't know the power of the GCAS audit report, then as an IT person, you're already lowering your power to be able to do your work. Are we together? We report to Treasury, right? Most of us. We do? Yeah. Look at that report. Look at the issues that have been highlighted there. I will not tell you how many times we have done that and we've been very successful because we are addressing the mission of the church. So if you see an issue that is on the auditor's report, pick on it and you will definitely get funding for it because we are addressing a major, major issue in the church. Okay, so we now know our mission. Now let's look at IT as a tool, and I'm happy that my brothers at the back and Brother David also talked about it. IT is a tool. We need to understand that IT is a hammer. Are we together? It's a tool. It's a saw. It's a hammer. It's a tool. If we don't understand that IT is a tool, then we'll run around buying expensive hammers, and we have 5 already other hammers lying around because we don't know what to use IT for. And if we look at IT as a tool, here are the issues that we'll look at. We need to align IT with the strategy, with the mission of the church. IT is not an end. IT is not just a cost center where you are buying servers and piling them up and using them. No, no, no. You need to start from the beginning. What problem are we solving by doing this? And once you start by that, you hardly go very wrong because sooner or later you will get the right answers to the question. So aligning our IT services or our IT work with the strategy of the church is a major, major, major issue. And here's another one. We need to be a resource versus being a utility. Are we together? That means we need to be, a resource is something that is valuable. If I come to Kenya and I say, as a country, what are the resources that Kenya has? Wildlife is a resource, right? Kenya has a lot of wildlife. If we deleted all the wildlife in Kenya, would Kenya be rich or poor? Poor, right? IT must become a what? A resource. They must think, unfortunately, I once went to another division very, very close to us, very far or close, yeah? And they were liquidating their IT departments and turning them into an outsourced service. I also have had cases of my IT people becoming receptionists, secretaries. Why? Because you have failed to become a what? A resource. You are not valued as an important member of the mission. People are realizing, hey, you know what, we are running out of typists here. This man types very fast. Please, can you... And sooner or later, I'm not sure if you've come across it, especially in IT offices where you are the only one. That's another issue that I also say. I also once worked in a place, actually most of my life I've worked as the IT guy, as the one IT guy. And it's a painful place to be because one, IT people need to know everything. From fixing electricity to plumbing to making sure, anyone who can testify with me? Yeah. We know what I'm talking about, right? Any problem they have, let's call the IT guy because you are supposed to know what? Everything. Are we together? So you need to become a resource, not a what? A utility. And that part of it is the failure that we have in defining, understanding what are we supposed to be doing as IT people. Right. So here is another one. Just put up a few things here. Resources versus utility. I want you to tell me on each of these boxes whether that's a resource or utility. Do you know what it means to keep the lights on? Making sure power doesn't go off, right? Is that a resource or a utility? Yeah, I think I'll put it more on the utility side. Are we together? Yeah, keeping the lights on. It means that your work is making sure there's internet, emails are working, laptops are not getting infected by viruses. Yeah, that's keeping the lights on. Are we together? And your work ends right there. And so unfortunately, sometimes it can be so overwhelming, it ends right there, exactly. And then, cost and expense. Cost expense, you are basically a place where when the treasurer looks at the budget, when they prepare the budget at the end of the year, they're like, hey, how much more money does this guy want this year? Then you know you have a big problem. Are we together? I'm happy to tell you that we are getting to a point where we no longer advocate for our own budgets anymore. Things have changed a little bit. Now what we do, we go sit, for instance, we wanted to do a paperless solution in our office. And we know that secretariat department is the one that does a lot of papers, right? There's a lot of documents, archives, and stuff like that. So we went to them and said, hey, do you know that we have a solution that can enable you to work paperlessly? Ah, okay, what do you mean? No, there's this solution, we presented it, it works like this, like this, like this, like this. Okay, all right. When we had our ADCOM to vote for this thing, who was talking the most? Was it IT? Who was talking the most? Why? Because they had owned the product, right? They knew the value that they'll get when they get this right. So we were just there folding our hands and confirming. Say, oh, IT, is this true what they're saying? Yeah, it's very true. Actually, it can, and then we add. And from there, the discussion stops being about you as the IT department or you as the IT person. The idea now starts becoming the mission of the church because we are solving a what? A problem. Are we together? Investments. You need to become an investment. And every time you come up with a solution, the organization must be very clear what benefits we are going to get from this thing. If we miss that part, we can go home. We don't have business being in IT. We need to be able to explain how will we benefit from a faster internet connection. Not just so that we can have bragging rights to say, come to SID, we have 10 gigs. What are you doing with the 10 gigs? What is it used for? Are we together? So that's what we need to get to. A seat at the table. It must get to a point where when ADCOM, EXCOM, or the elders have to make a decision, they need to say, where's the IT guy? Before we go, let's find out what IT thinks about this. If they're not asking that question, you're getting something very wrong. Whether it's at conference level, whether it's at union level, or at, my brother Haggai knows. They need to be able to say, okay, we are thinking of this. What does IT think? Is there a better way of doing it? Is there a cost-effective way of doing it? Is there anything we missed? Is this what's happening currently? Are these methods, for instance, SID wants to do evangelism in South Africa right now as we speak. South Africa is a very interesting place. It's very advanced and also very, very, very not so advanced in some areas. So what strategy, when that strategy comes up, IT needs to come and say, hey, elders, for this part, I think we can use this method. We'll be able to reach these people. Because we have a lot of gated communities where you can't enter unless, like, it's almost like our gate here at AUA. Almost a lot of our suburbs are like that. So before you can even get there, so you are used to your door-to-door campaigns and you're moving in the place, carrying your Bibles and knocking at doors. Will that work there? No, you will not get access to get there. Or if you are staying in there, you are not even, the rules of the Homeowners Association does not allow you to go to knock to your neighbors without invitation. So that method of evangelism doesn't work. So as IT, you can say, you know what? I have an idea. I want us to set up free access, Wi-Fi access points in a suburb. And then once you connect to it, that free access, the splash page that comes up before you log in, it must be able to evangelize somebody. Are we together? Ask them a question and say, okay, if you want free access, what does John 3 verse 16 say? The correct answer, if you put the correct answer here, you get access to the internet. We're already becoming innovative. Are we together? Sometimes we look very far for big solutions. That idea, if I go to my church and say, Elder, we need $3,000 to do this project, do you really think he'll say no? And we already have a budget for evangelism, right? So now we are taking money from evangelism and using it for IT operations. Are we seeing how IT can become part of the mission of the church? Those are little things that we can look at and make sure we utilize. All right, so let's move on. All right, so keeping the lights on and solving problems. So there are about 7 steps that literature talks about, IT literature talks about, in alignment, and I'm going to walk us through some of these, and I'll be trying to share examples and making sure that we move together. So the first thing that we need to do is to identify business drivers. Business drivers are things that make us tick, that make the organization live. Without becoming too political, stewardship, the ability to collect tithe and offering, is one of the most important things that the church needs to be able to do the mission of the church. Are we together? So as IT, as we come up with CFMS and any other solution that helps with this issue, guess what? Everyone will pay attention when we present it because we are addressing a big what? I'm not sure about here, but COVID, sometimes I want to thank COVID for helping us. COVID did a lot of things for IT people. There's a saying in IT, I'm not sure if Eda David will support this one or subscribe. They say, don't leave a crisis to go to waste. Are we together? What does it say? Don't leave. I'm happy the treasurer, the CFOs are not here. We can share freely some of these things. When you have a crisis, you have an opportunity. We've always heard that. And in IT, it also applies. When something is not working or there's a crisis, we can also capitalize on that to be able to fix issues that have been an issue for a long time. A good example, you have a one-man IT department. The day you get sick, what will go wrong, as we heard. That's the time you say, I think I need an assistant. If I had an assistant, we would not be here. You have capitalized on a crisis. Are we together? We're not saying create or invent crises so that you push your agenda. But what we are saying is you can take advantage of some of those to say, this is the importance of, now we are crippled. How much money have we lost? How much time have we lost? Unfortunately, I think also in Africa, we have a poor record of measuring the value of time. In the SID, we have a centralized solution for SunPlus, my brother. SunPlus is in our SID cloud. We have about, I'll check the stats for you. Let's say we have 300 users. If we are off for 1 hour, multiply 300 times 1 hour. How much money is that? I can use that figure now to justify why we need redundancy, why we need an extra link, why we need an extra whatever. Are we together? And the day it happens, I'll say, aha, Elder, you see, I wrote you an email. Remember the email I sent you and we discussed this issue? This is what I meant. And once you go that direction, you are now capitalizing on a crisis and making sure it works to our advantage. So we need to identify what are the critical business drivers in our organization. We take those and we make sure that IT helps us to be efficient in them. And once they're happening efficiently, it's easier to sell when it's now being accepted and people realize that we are concerned about the mission of the church and that what we are doing is actually improving what is happening. Are we together? And see, we have been able to give laptops to conferences for CFMS and so on. Why? Because the money is coming. So IT, the only thing I think we need to do, Elder, is to now say how much money, how much value has IT created. So that when we go and ask for money, we are not asking as an expense. We are saying, you know what, we have contributed X amount. We are asking for so much to do this. No one will say no, because IT has become a resource. Are we together? So that's the mindset that we need. And I'm not being very specific to all things, because some of us are in education, wherever we are. We need to be able. Online learning, we had COVID. I was telling you about thanking COVID. Good, perfect opportunity to implement online learning tools. They are expensive, yes, but the risk is closing the institution. So money becomes available. I've always said money follows vision. When you have no money for a project, that means your vision either is not clear or it's not there. When the vision is clear, the value is clear, we will be able to get money. So business drivers, very, very important. So we need to identify, list them down and say, these are the critical business drivers for our operations in our entity. The next thing, establish a culture of innovation. You need one day to just go sit next to a secretary or next to an accounts person and look at what are they doing every day. Just take a study and say, oh, okay. I once caught some of my secretaries in one of my offices writing a lot of weird retirees who are retired. We needed to send them their payment information. It was the days when we had a lot of envelopes and we had to send them by mail. A secretary would be spending the whole day typing those envelopes when we have mail merge. When I taught them how to do mail merge, innovation was coming, right? Oh, so in 2 minutes, in 2 seconds, what is now slow is the printer, because all of that information is on we have done mail merge and we have solved the problem. So we need to take those small little wins. You need to be able to look at those small little things. One other thing that I've seen people struggle with is how do you turn yourself, now you have been made a secretary as IT, how do you then now work backwards to become the ITO again? You now need to start finding value. And how do you find value? In solving small little problems first, the easy winnings. Are we together? The easy things. Solve those problems, and as you solve those, people say, no, I think you can leave the typing a little bit. We have another problem. You need to help us this side. And sooner or later, there'll be no time for you to do typing. Are we together? So we need to be able to be innovative. We need to establish a culture of innovation where we are solving problems and coming up with methods and means of solving problems. I know we can't all create new solutions. Sometimes you just need to be able to look at what others are doing. That's why we are here. Are we together? As you go back now, you say, you know what? That lady from that institution shared this solution. Maybe we can use it here. You're already being innovative. Innovation does not mean the idea must originally be yours. Are we together? You're not being asked to come up with new ideas, your own original idea. It's just being able to apply a solution to a relevant problem. And if you ask me, that's the summary of IT work. We are basically identifying what can work and applying it. So we need to find new ways of doing things and then identifying pain points. If there's an issue somewhere in your entity, you need to be able to look and say, we have long queues of patients at this hospital. What can we do to make sure that we reduce the queuing of patients at admission? If you come up with a solution for that problem, the CEO of that hospital will be very happy with you. And IT now is what? Is doing work. Are we together? All right. So we've identified key business drivers, we've established a culture of innovation, and then we need to assess our IT maturity. And I think this is something that my elder specializes in. It's a whole area of IT governance and so on. But in simple terms, we need to see how efficient and how structured is our IT department or our IT service. Right now, most of us, to be honest, without too much assessment, including myself and my division, we're at step number 1, ad hoc. We are reactive. When things happen, we jump now. Oh, okay, this has happened. We have not yet gotten to a point where we have come up with system cycles that we can improve and repeat and do over and over again. Are we together? So this is something that you can Google at your own time. IT maturity is very important. We need to get to a point where we are able to apply IT frameworks. Those ISO standards the elder was talking about, we need to be able to say, okay, we have now reached this standard. We are able to guarantee that this service will continue running because we have redundancies. And these things answer a lot of how we should operate IT departments. So don't go creating new ways of running your departments. These frameworks have a way of running. And I think our boss is coming. We have discussed this at length. We need to come up with a template from the GC, which we all adopt and we start implementing somehow. Because this thing of each man for himself, God for us all, is not efficient, it's not effective. So this is something that is coming, and I hope that we will be able to get it. So that as the conference, you can now be armed with a document that says, a conference with so much members needs at least 2 IT people who do these operations. If it grows to this is what you now require. If it grows, this is what it now requires. That must be a template, a framework that is established, and that is, we are all able to apply. And I'm not sure about here, but when the GC says something in my division, people sit up and listen a little bit more. I'm not sure about here. But you can now imagine if we have a framework that we have now agreed on that the GC has given us, because IT has always been without a direction for a very long time. It's been a hit and miss operation. So if we have these frameworks, which we can then now customize to our realities and implement, it will help us as we function so that we don't end up with IT people being secretaries or security guards at the gate. Are we together? All right. So that is something that we need. So once we know where our IT level is, we are then able to assess innovation barriers. These are things that are standing in the way of us getting solutions done. And some of them, lack of HR, you are the only person, or you are serving 3 or 5 organizations and you are the only person. You can only do that for so long. After a while, the inefficiencies will start showing up. No matter how good you are, you cannot be in 3 places at the same time. You are not the Holy Spirit. So those problems will start showing sooner or later, either in a crisis or in things just going badly. So this is something that we now need to be able to start talking to our elders. We can do things a bit differently. We have a problem. We don't have human resources or even the skills. And that's where outsourcing also comes into play. We should know what we don't know. As an IT person, if you don't know what you don't know, you are in trouble. We understand the phrase, right? You need to know, I'm good at networking, making sure I terminate RJ 45 cables. This thing of routing or firewall or setting up the website, I'm not very good. And that's why the network now comes in. We should be able to end at the end of the day. I'm not sure if Elder Guy has done it. We need a directory to say, if you have a security problem, we have a guy who is a consultant for the whole division who can be able to quickly assess the situation and then tell us what we need. We need those skills because all of us are different. Some people are programmers. Being a programmer is different from being an IT leader. It's different from being a network engineer. And if we don't know all of those differences, we are in a big mess. So IT people need to know what we don't know. And then we also then need to know where we can get the solutions from. Are we together? That just helps us solve that lack of HR. Lack of budgets. This one, I think all of us can agree. There's no money is the most favorite thing we have had in our work. There's no money for this. Oh, you want us to do this? There's no money for this. We need to be able to address those either by showing the value, the cost saving of a long-term investment. There's a time when the GC was pushing for us to do a worldwide Adventist cloud, private cloud, where we would run our internal services and so on. So we went to our leadership and said, hey, elders, this is a good idea. It will help us. We need to be able to centralize some of these things. My backups at SID must be kept at ECD. ECD must be able to back up. Remember, I will not lie to you. If we don't know that we are living in the end of time as Adventists and as IT professionals, we have a big problem also. As we work our 10-year plans, whatever, we need to realize one day we will not be able to operate freely as we operate now. Are you hearing me slowly? So, a strategy to completely go into public cloud, the day Microsoft puts out a policy that any institution that does not subscribe to LGBT issues is an enemy of the state and we cannot offer services to them, what are we going to do? It affects everything we do, eh? That day when we need to run to the mountains, are we going to leave this campus with our servers and our information running here? It's something to think about, right? It means systems we have must have kill switches. Something that you can press once and it destroys all our data. Good example, right? We need our own private systems. We need our own private cloud to be able to host some sensitive information. I'm not sure if you've heard stories of the GC getting hacked by state-sponsored actors looking for missionaries in China, information about them. I'm not sure if you heard that story. Anyone hear a story like that before? Oh, you don't realize we're a target, right? We are a target as the Adventist Church. So we need to make sure that as we work, as we do things, we are coming up with things that help us to be able to understand the times that we live in. And that will also help us as we align ourselves and come up with our strategies to realize that we need to be very wise and ask God to help us as we come up with things that will help us overcome our barriers. I think we've already alluded to the knowledge gaps. We are not experts in everything, and I don't think there's any one person who can be an expert in everything. That person might not be fully telling us the truth. I know they can good a lot of things, but depth in each of those areas normally doesn't exist. So if we have a strategy, we have people here, we are in programming, we have people with security, we can deepen those skills and then have them as a shared resource in the whole division. That would help us sort out our innovation barriers. I think there are places in Kenya here where internet connection is not a good idea, is not very good, or doesn't exist at all. I'm not sure if it still is the case. But if we then wanted to do the centralized solution, my brother, you now need to think, what are we going to do with those places that can connect to the centralized solution? So that becomes a barrier to innovation. Even if you are good, if the internet is not working and you want a solution that uses the internet, you already have problems. So now you need to make sure you have on-site infrastructure. Right, so after that, so let's just recap. We have identified our key business drivers. We have established a culture of innovation. We have assessed our IT maturity. We know what we can handle and what we can't handle. We have looked at issues that will stop us from achieving our work as IT. We've addressed the innovation barriers. Now we need to prioritize our initiatives. So we need to be able to say, okay, we've sat down, we've put these things nicely on paper. We now know what, oh, by the way, IT management using your mind and not documenting things is not very, not very good. Eh? There are standards that govern these things. And when we adopt those frameworks, they help us even with the documentation. So our things need to be written down so that if we ourselves are not there or something goes wrong, people can still be able to function. You're reducing the risk to the... I've actually said to some of my IT people, you can become a risk. You, the IT person, can become a risk to business continuity of the organization. A good example, you like this Chinese little router that you alone knows how to program. You get knocked by a car. At your funeral, we are not just crying that we have lost you. We are crying to say, what are we going to do? This man is the only one who knew how to do this thing. It's a risk, a big one. And those are some of the issues that when we do the risk assessments, we are looking and saying, does the next level of the organization have access to all infrastructure? And so on and so forth. So anyway, I think I'm digressing as I go, but I guess you get the point. So priorities are very important to make sure that we look at what are we going to prioritize first. And if you are in an institution where it's still difficult to sell IT solutions, you need to start with the quick wins. You need to be able to say, okay, we are typing things too much. I can do a QR code that can be scanned, and we are able to do this thing. And once that is bought, people get confidence. This guy seems to know something. Next time you come and say, okay, I think we can do this. Let's try his idea. This guy looks like he's doing something. And the next solution, until when you say things now, because you are now trusted, in business, we call it goodwill. You now have goodwill with your customers. People can now buy your ideas, and your ideas can now be funded, and resources can now be made available. Proof of concepts, another one, very good one. Let's not start, because the failure rate of IT projects is in literature, is astounding. The amount of IT projects that start and fail is amazing. I think it's almost over 90%, if I'm not mistaken. There's a big figure. I'm not sure if you have come across the figure. There's a figure, if you Google, somebody just Google there, failure rate of IT projects, and see what percentage of IT projects that are started and fail. I remember we have a lot of case studies, airlines that have started doing an upgrade, it failed in between. A lot of IT projects fail. But proof of concepts help you risk manage. Because proof of concept says, okay, if we can make this work in a small scale, when we scale it, the probability of it succeeding will be higher. Are we together? Are we together? A good example. I was at a union, we were working at a union, email had just started, it was just a fresh idea. We had a dial-up network. You know the modem, 56K modem. And I needed us to start trying this email thing going. And we did a proof of concept. So I got a small server, a small box. There was QMail those days. Linux people know that. We had QMail, we configured QMail. And then we made the connection happen. We set up a few email addresses, registered domain, and things started happening. And sooner or later, people came and asked me, hey, this thing is slow. It's good, but it's slow. What can we do to make it faster? Now it was the people asking me, not me telling them, right? And guess what? I think it was in 2003. We had one of the first fiber connections to a union in the SID, in that union. Why? Because people had seen value. The proof of concept was then used to motivate bigger investment in the project. Are we together? So you can go and say, okay, instead of us asking for 2 billion shillings for this thing, let's just get 10,000. Do it in a small, even run it on your desktop. These days we have powerful laptops. Run this service on the laptop and say, Elder, you know what? We can make this thing run bigger. But we need now. Because now it's sold. Everyone is convinced that the thing will work. You have also tested, you have reduced risks. That's how, in slow but sure ways, we start aligning ourselves to the mission of the church. Because sometimes I think the reason why I took this approach is sometimes we can come and talk about big ideas that need a lot of money. Missing that even if we start with small concepts, they can be then made to become pregnant and give birth to bigger projects and even more unlock a lot of funding for us. Are we together? Are we together, my brothers and sisters? I'm not wasting your time? We are okay? All right. So that one is an interest. So now we have priorities. We have prioritized our IT initiatives. Now we know which one we're going to start with. The quick wins and these ones that solve big problems, we have aligned them nicely on a list, and they are easy now to that. Then we start evaluating the best, and this is the most tricky part. I call it treacherous. For you to come up as an IT person and say, this technology or this solution, my brother will not always confess with us, but But I've known vendors who get incentives for selling a particular brand. It's an effect of the market. It's marketing, right? I've seen people who push certain solutions because there's a benefit that comes to them as the salespeople. They have targets to sell a particular laptop. When you say we need a laptop, which one are they showing you? Are we together? I'm not sure if it happens here, but where I come from there, you need to be very, very, very careful because the person who subscribes the solution might be an interested party and they might be conflicted. And when that happens, that's where trust now, Total Solutions, right? We've been working with them for a long time. They've never steered us wrong. We now work with trusted vendors because there's always new stuff every day. And if you're not careful, you become the beta tester of a new solution. And if it fails, you become part of that percentage of IT projects that fail. So this is the most complicated part. Choosing now, what is the solution? What is the technology we can use? Do we go with our own in-house? Do we outsource programming? Do we get programmers to write software on their own? What are the advantages of doing that? Is it cost-effective? Is it better to go buy a already known solution? Or do we develop our own? Those are the decisions that need to come into your mind. What are the risks? IT is about risks, right? If things go wrong as an IT person, and they've gone wrong for me also, I've chosen solutions that don't work at times, and money has been spent. How do you recover from that? Because now the pastors come and say, hey, the man of God is being wasted here. And for sure, it's being wasted. So how do you come out? How do you come back from that? Any ideas? I want us to discuss this one. What do? You have said, okay, we are going to go with this IBM server. And then the thing is now not working as expected. Or now it's even causing more losses or more expenses. What do you do as the IT person? Any takers? Conference IT directors, hands up. Because these are the real things that we face as IT people. What do? You've done all of these things now. You've done your homework. You know the problem. You know how we can solve it. Then you choose the wrong technology and things go wrong. You can even call in your consultants and it still goes wrong. What do? Elder, what can we do? Now you have prescribed as a consultant, you have prescribed a solution. This is what you need to do. Then it doesn't work. How do we redeem ourselves? It's a problem. It's a problem. There's a saying that I love as we think about it. There was an argument about whether we should invest money into training people or not. And the outcome was that if we train these people, they will leave us. Because they become more attractive outside. Our salaries in the church are not very wonderful. Maybe in ECD is different. But the money that Total Solutions can pay me as the CIO of Total Solutions is way different from what I'm getting paid right now. Are we together? And yet the qualifications, the certifications I have now, I can apply for the job. So the answer to that question was, what if we don't train them and they stay? What's better? We train them and we risk them going. Or we don't train them and they stay. Which one is the bigger problem here? Right, so here's the thing that has worked for me in these cases where things have gone wrong. When you present your business case, present the risks also. Are we together? Don't come with magic bullets, silver bullets that solve everything. There's nothing that can go wrong. This one is that, no. You should be honest. Elders, if we do this, if we buy this, this is what we expect to happen. Are we together? But there's a risk. If things go wrong, this is how they can go wrong. You even give scenarios of how they can go wrong. Are we together? And then you make sure that you show that the value is worth the risk. IT people, are we together? Are we together? Because if we don't do this, when things go wrong, you'll be on your own, my brother. You'll be on your own. But if we do it like that, and we have collectively identified all the risks, we have our risk register and all these interesting plans in place, when things go wrong, people say, okay, this is the mitigation to this problem. If this happens, we said we're going to do this. You have thought through those solutions. So let us not just quickly run to align ourselves to the mission without also doing the other side of our due diligence, which makes sure that our risks are taken care of. So the failure of technology projects is a big challenge in our work. Elder, am I telling the truth?
Yeah, I think just like you mentioned, and I think the speakers from Total Solution also mentioned that when we don't get the user requirements right, then the project or the technology project is likely to fail. It could be a good solution, but for the wrong problem. Okay, so or you don't have some of the dependencies to support that technology. Yeah, imagine buying an airplane and you don't have any crew to operate it. Obviously, it can't take off. Not that the plane is bad, but because the implementation is wrong, and that is a failed project. Thank you.
All right. So we heard that explanation. You can have the right solution to the wrong problem. You can have the what? The right solution to the what? To the wrong problem. That's a failed project. And that's a bad, bad, bad situation. And once our confidence is taken away, getting it back is not always easy. All right. And then we need to then come up with a plan to implement the solution that we have now identified. We've done all our homework. Everything is going on. Failure to plan is a plan to what? To fail. Failure to plan is a plan to fail. Our timing, very critical. So we go through the phase of project management, making sure that we have our plans in order. When are we going to switch over? What is the best time to start a new project? Do we do it after the audit? SunPlus, good example. It's always easier to implement when you have an audited financial statement with opening balances that are clean. Are we together? Then it's easier. So those things are planning. You now say, okay, which time of the year do we start this project? Do we have the money to start and finish it? Do we have the people to maintain it? Do we have all of those things come under planning. So these, in summary, are the 7 steps that help us to align our IT departments with the mission of the church. So far, so good? Right. So whether it's a hospital, these things apply in all of our areas. Right. I'm trying to make sure that I don't keep you hostage here. Do you have any comments, questions in what we have just heard? Comments, questions? Anyone to call question? Yes.
Thank you. This is Joseph Mugara from Uganda Union, specifically Uganda University. You brought in a question which you didn't conclude, and you said, what if you've suggested a solution and you think it's going to solve the problem, and it doesn't solve the problem? Then you asked, what do you do? You left that question hanging. You didn't tell us, because we find ourselves in such scenarios. And so it sometimes demoralizes your energy, like to go to the bosses next time to suggest to them, because chances are high when they lost on the other one, they're like, if you bring this. So.
All right. So I think what Elder David alluded to, we need to do our homework very well. Our needs must be well defined. We should know exactly what, we need to spend a lot of time understanding the problem. That will reduce, so all of these steps that we are taking are reducing the risk of what? Of failure. But if it eventually happens, and we have done a good job, part of that job was also making sure the bosses know the risk of failure. That's what I had mentioned. They need to understand that there is nothing that is 100% under the sun. With all our good intentions, with all our best and all the money, projects still fail. Are we together? We have a lot of, like I mentioned, we have a lot of big cases done very well. You look at BA, Heathrow Airport, there was one day that's a big mess up. But they had all the best consultants you can find in the world. But things still went what? wrong. So risk management, you need to be able to make sure the expectations are also managed, my brother. If you overpromise and you then make sure your bosses buy this pie in the sky and then it doesn't fly, you're going to be in trouble. So you need to be able to say, okay, elders, we want to do this solution. Here's the proposed solution. Here's the problem that we're trying to solve. Here's the proposed solution. But as we do this, here is what can go wrong. And you put all of those things and make sure they're documented and they're discussed. And then you can even come up with plans. If this happens, what will we do? If as we are buying the equipment, exchange rate changes, what are we going to do? If we do this, so all of those things now need to be, you need to make sure you do your homework and communicate. For me, the solution to that problem is proper communication with our bosses so that they can trust what we are saying, because when it doesn't happen, if you have come up with all of those risks and they don't happen, next time you go back, the confidence level is higher because they know you do a thorough job of making sure you've looked at all of those things. All right. I'm not sure if that satisfies the question. All right. Any other? Elder Guy? Thank you.
That was amazing. Can we just clap for him again? He was talking about real stuff, right? That we meet in our work environment. I believe you'll have another session before we go. So you start making your notes again, Tembi. I think what he's talked about is very critical. And I hope John and Justice get more questions on that area tomorrow when you're doing our Kahoot, right? Because I've seen cases where sometimes you want to make a point, so you get your school project and you tell the president this can do ABC before you do your proper research. So gather the requirements, test it. Before you announce that you have this solution, make sure that it's working. You don't want to be embarrassed. So I think we made good progress today, being day one of our seminar. I'd like us to, Philip, if you can come, and John, just for us to do something. Tomorrow, breakfast starts at 6:30. Today, we arrived a bit late. I think by 8, just a few of us were here. So tomorrow, please make sure you're here by 7:45. We should be here so that we start on time. We have 3 speakers from out tomorrow, and then also internal. The good news is that our boss from the GC has finally gotten his visa. What do you say? Yes, he'll be arriving here tomorrow by 8 a.m., so we'll have him for the course of the day. Philip and John will tell us what happens after this, how long we're going to take to change, where we are meeting, and what activities we'll be doing this evening before we come back for dinner. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. I hope you have all enjoyed and have learned something new. So after all this, we have been seated for a long time. The campus is large and you want to see the campus. I request that after this, I'll request you to go and change to maybe your sports attire or your jogging attire, something that you can go out with for exercising. Then in 15 minutes, that will be, let me give you at 10 past 5, quarter past 5, let us meet at the reception. What we'll have today is just a tour of the campus. We'll walk and see the campus around. those who like jogging, those who like exercising. At the end, we'll have some exercises, but that is after walking around. We know some of you arrived today early morning. You have not had some sleep, so today we are making it